Hello, everybody. Welcome to my weekly Meltdown coverage of Survivor Heroes vs. Villains, episode 3 and 4. Allison, she has a little bit of a migraine today, so we said just take the day off. You know, Coach is like already a headache in our lives. You know, Russell is migraine inducing, so we don't want to add to that here at my weekly Meltdown. So just take the night off. We'll see you next week. Don't worry about it. But of course, with us as always is Beth. How are you, Beth?
I'm doing really well. As I was saying to you earlier, I was in the mood for a beanie night. It's a little cold in my area, so I thought, let's get all nice and toasty, considering now that the villains can get a little toasty at night, considering they have the tarp inside, I should be able to too.
Yes, it was. I think today was the first snowfall in New York for the year, so or for the winter season. So, and of course, I was walking like 30 blocks, like carrying like a big tote from the Container Store, and I got stuck in that. So that's how my day's going.
Did you get stuck in the container?
No, I wish, because then I wouldn't have to deal with the snow.
Why didn't you just turn it around and put it on your head? First of all, it does two things. One, super effective COVID face mask.
That's true.
You just you're literally in your own bubble.
That's true.
Two, no one in New York would go near you already. Forget about COVID. Just the sense that like anytime you do something that's slightly different, people in New York are like, we're just going to let that be. We're just going to like ignore and just move away from it. So you get a little bit more space. And 3, if it's snowing, just a little bit more protection. And 4, finally, what a more efficient way to carry it along.
There you go. I think Beth, you have it all figured out, just like Russell has it all figured out over on the Villains Tribe. So let's break it down because you know I feel like episode 3 is probably the most like straightforward episode of Survivor Heroes versus Villains, right?
Everything's straightforward about it.
It is, you know, like the villains lose their first immunity, right? And so they need to decide who goes home. But you know, even with like a straightforward vote, like getting somebody that's like really not connected, like Randy, somebody that's not contributing for challenges, somebody that's just kind of a dead weight on the tribe when like you already have Sandra and Courtney as somebody who's like really not contributing much to the challenge, like. Right. Yeah. So Randy, you know, that's an easy vote to come to. But I feel like I rewatching this, I feel like I have a newfound respect for the pitch that he had, right?
Oh yeah.
Because everything he was saying was like spot on about like Parvati, how like the guys are like all wrapped around her finger, how she has like all those Micronesia connections, like the reasons to vote out Parvati are all there, right? It's just tough because like, can you afford to lose Parvati when you don't have like that much like physical strength on your tribe to begin with?
It's a really interesting thing because at this point in time, while Parvati, I'll say it like this. Parvati has always been better at individual immunity challenges than adding something amazing to a team immunity challenge.
That's true.
So, but that's not a leg that Randy can stand on. Also, I've wanted to know this for 10 years. Who said, let's put Randy up against James? That is what I want to know. That was fucking Russell being like, oh yeah, I'm going to take on, you know?
Yeah, I think at that point, like, I think it was like 6-0 it was the reward challenge, right? The sandbag and or was that immunity as well? I forget.
It was the immunity challenge. The reward challenge is when they had to like slide and
that's right. But I feel like at that point they were down like 6-0, right? And like James has not.
No, I'm sorry. It was a 2-1 challenge. Where they had to slide was in episode 4.
Right. Okay. So it was a reward and immunity all. It was a
reward and immunity because heroes got the coffee and their comfort items as well.
Yes.
Which I got really nervous because I was like, some of them I have like teddy bears and they're covered in mud and just like get them like way dirty before they can really like enjoy them.
Yeah. But I think like because like the villains just like the heroes just like totally stomped the villains like every single matchup. Like it wasn't even close, right? I feel like that really scared the villains tribe into losing somebody more physically capable like a Parvati. I think that probably had a lot to do with it.
I do think that Parvati is one of the few matchups that put up the biggest fight for who she was put up against in that challenge. But like, here's the thing. it's no secret that the heroes tribe is more physical because they have been in the head of every part of every challenge so far that has been physical, and they always just drop off the second it becomes mental. And we know that that's where the villains thrive. And that's what I love so much specifically about this theme and how the episodes played out in the very beginning, is that it so plays into this idea that the villains have wit and the heroes have strength.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how it plays out for the most part. So you get a challenge like that. And the one time they might have scored a point is when Coach inadvertently used his hand and the
yeah. I love that they include that, because like all of Coach's character moments are just so Coach from start to finish. Like him like screaming and going like Rah! And then everybody's like, Jeff's like, no, Coach, like no, you got disqualified. And then he like flips off Jeff, and I'm like, wow, like that's pretty
point that finger at the pirate, not at me.
Yep. And
that's what I love so much. We get to see, I said this, so my parents are rewatching this with me.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't remember, they remember bits of, they'll be like, oh yeah, I kind of remember this or whatever. So this is the first time that they're watching it since they watched it live 10 years ago. And my mom will be like, oh, I just don't like the villains tribe, because she's very casual. She wants to root for people. And like, I'm very much like, no, I think the villains tribe's awesome. But here's the thing about Coach. I have never really rooted for him in a game, but I think he's one of the most compelling characters that has ever been on any reality show.
For sure.
Period.
Yeah.
Like, and here's the thing, like, even if some of it is put on for the camera, it's unique and it draws you in and it makes you say, what the fuck is up with this guy? But at the same time, or you'll be like, what a tool. But you kind of love it at the same, like, I love watching him. Even in South Pacific, when I thought he was like really awful, because South Pacific as a whole is just like a shitstorm season. Yeah. Very cult. And a lot of it was because of him and his influence. But he's just such an interesting character. And in these 2 episodes, we see every range of emotion from Coach. We see him crying. We see him like, I'm going to quit the game. We see him being like, no, you have to stay mentally smart. You see him, I love that the editors like both embrace him and actually support him with the music that they do. And then other times show him as a complete tool bag. Like they do such a good job, because I feel like we really get a good sense that this guy is someone who means well in normal day to day, maybe a little annoying, but on the whole is fiercely himself and independent. I love it.
Yeah, I think one like a kind of umbrella term to encapsulate like all of that with Coach over these 2 episodes is fragile.
Yes,
he's like strategically fragile, because like at the beginning of episode 3, right? Like he is one of the people along with Jerry that's like, Parvati has to go. Like I'm not gonna fall for that miss. Like she's just using her charm, like she's using her good looks to like just win over the entire tribe. And I think we hear from him like 2 or 3 separate times, and he's like, well, that's not, her good looks are not going to work on me. I'm too old and too wise to fall for that nonsense. And then Parvati hears that he wants to target her, and she calls him out on it in the like when they're bathing in the beach. She's like, listen, like I hear you're talking about taking me out. And he folds like immediately. Yeah. And he's like, well, I don't, well, I mean, you told me what to do. Like, I'm just worried about you taking over the tribe. And then like by the end of the conversation, he's like wrapping his arms around her, like just like totally misted by Parvati's charm. Yeah. And that's like literally the entire conversation, the whole episode about like from the villains tribe is about Parvati. Like, should we take her out? Should we keep her? We get a really great confessional from Jerry where she's like, God, I just want to punch her in the face. Like, I can't stand her. And then it cuts immediately to Parvati, and she's like, Jerry's annoying. She's just an old cougar. And but it just goes to show like the what's really amazing about Parvati and this season is she is such a target from like literally the Randy vote. She is such a target. And she is able to just like spin everybody, Russell included, Russell thinks that he's like I'm the king of the island. I'm the best player to ever play this game. But he's
none
the
of
one
these
that
people have seen me play, so
Mhm.
therefore I can run circles around them.
Mhm.
That kind of thing, yeah.
But who does Parvati hear from that coach wants to target her? It's Russell. Russell goes to her and gives her that information. He's the one that's putting Parvati in that driver's seat. In like the chess metaphor, like the queen is a lot stronger than the king, and that's very true here on the villains tribe.
The king is the one that needs to be protected. The queen is the one that has the moves, and this is something that we figure out a lot in this game.
Yeah.
And what I think is really interesting is that the edit really makes it seem like Russell is the one. And I would say that, let's not pretend like Russell's not doing anything. Russell has done a lot in many ways. He's trying to create all the drama and such by hiding the machete, which makes people mad, but I'm not sure it actually did anything to incite people finger pointing. This would have been a really great move if he was really concerned that his number one ally was going to go, to be like, blame it on Randy. And like make that the reason why, or whoever you want to go. If you want Boston Rob out of there, which you shouldn't at this point, and I think that's the reason why they're not going for him, is that he's like so strong at puzzles and he's a physical member. And he's like, the reason why people don't get rid of Boston Rob in the beginning of these games is because he's such an asset to camp and to team challenges. But you need to get rid of him before the merge. So this is something that I think is really interesting. And like Russell knows that. So that's why I'm saying that like Russell is strategic. He understands the power of Parvati, but he also is like falls a victim to her power so easily too.
Yeah. And it's something that he doesn't even realize until like the later half of this season. And like there are so many chances where he like even when like he takes out Danielle later, right? He really should have taken out Parvati then at that point. But we'll get there, of course. But
and the one interesting thing too that I want to bring up about this is that the entire edit of episode 3, even though it's like pretty straightforward, it says all episode long, I'm so sick of the pretty girls feeling like they could just lay around and do nothing. And they're talking about Parvati and they're talking about Courtney, specifically those two, and Danielle to a certain extent too. They're talking about those 3 women. And then who does Sandra bring up as the person who doesn't do work at camp?
Coach. Yeah.
Which is so interesting. So this is where I took a step back, having not watched this for a while, and went, what was Sandra's play there? And I think it's honestly that she wants to keep as many avenues open as possible. And she knows that Coach is such a good target to put any of those kind of things on, because he will get combative and inflammatory and have that response, and he will break down and he'll do those things. Who's not a smart person to do that to? A Parvati, even though he is the one. Who's not smart to do that? Randy, who's the obvious target going home. You need to start thinking a few votes ahead. Who are going to be the people that you need to start putting targets on now, and realizing that the women here can get away with doing stuff. And those are the women that she needs in front of her as a defense mechanism. So
I totally agree. And it just goes back to like that term that I think is like perfect for Coach is fragile, right? Like when like after he talks to Parvati, and she like wraps him around her finger and says like, don't target me. What does he do? He goes to Sandra in the woods and he's like, oh, like a lost puppy, right? He's like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know who to vote out here. And I think like this scene in particular is like Sandra to her core. And I have the little gif here because she's like, listen, I don't need to hear you go do this, you do good, you go do that. You tell me who it is and that's it. It's done. As long as it's not me, I don't care who goes. And it really just kind of like takes any responsibility off of her and puts that pressure back onto Coach that like, you are going to be the one to go down for whatever decision you make here. And it's going to be pinned on you.
And what's great about this is that this is where Sandra is a stronger player than Jerry, because Jerry can't handle it when Parvati does it to her.
Yeah.
And she hates it. That's where she's like, I want to punch her in her face and that kind of thing. It's like, no, Jerry, it's not that hard. You're a villainess. Come on. It's not that hard to say, who do we want And when Parvati says, no, but who are you voting for? Jerry should say at that moment, well, I want all of us to stick together. So let's throw out some names.
I think
Again,
like
throw it back. Like, you don't have to make it, but instead of just sitting there like, well, why do I have to come up with a name? Like, what you're doing is completely playing into their plan, and you're letting more info go, even if it's not information that's true. In this case, it was. Now Parvati can infer that she's the target. Even if that's not the true information, you're putting people's doubt and their trust in you. So you have to be able to like volley it back and forth until you reach a consensus.
Yeah. First, I just want to say hi to everybody in the chat.
Yes,
before
I'm just thinking that too.
Hey, Phelan. Hey, Matt Henning, Valencia, Hoofland. All of us, hello. Welcome, guys. I think we're seeing some people in the chat asking where to watch this. This season is on Netflix, so definitely check it out there so you don't have to deal with commercials and shit.
If you're in the US, it's on Netflix. I don't know if it's on Netflix internationally or like in Canada. I don't know if Hoofland, for example, if you can watch it from Europe. And then it's also on CBS, but again, I think that's America. So I'm not sure how you could
just do it on Netflix. It's commercial free there. Like it's easy. Yeah. So like it's just so I really think if Parvati didn't go to Coach directly and call him on his bluff and say like, why are you targeting me? I think that like because Jerry is hashtag jealousy of Parvati, and of course like Sandra, Rob, kind of like scared of the whole Russell Parvati thing. I think Parvati might have gone home here. I think like once like she flips Coach is when like Coach goes back to Jerry and says like, listen, I don't think this is a good idea. Let's not take her out this round. Let's just get out Randy. It's easy. So it really is an effective way to just kind of nip it in the butt before like all these like secret conversations are happening about you.
No, this is why, even though it's such a straightforward episode, there's still so many cool layers to look at because it's the villains tribe. If you're looking at the heroes tribe, there are layers, and we'll get into that with episode 4. But what's interesting about it is like in a cut and dry episode like Sugar going home in the first, it's like we spent more time talking about what they should have done and what they should have looked into than they did. You know what I mean?
Exactly. For sure. And like, this is the very first vote over at the villains, and it's already like this hard, right? It's this tough. And that's how good Parvati is at this game, is that like, this is a tribe of 10. And they already feel like we can't get rid of her. We can't afford to lose her, or else like we're not winning these challenges and stuff. And, you know, maybe that's true. Like they don't swap at all this entire season. So like it could be true. My question to you is like, where would your vote have gone? Like who would you have been pitching to go home here in this vote?
If I'm being honest with myself and I'm in the moment, I probably would have voted for Randy. I do feel like I probably wanted to get rid of somebody who I didn't feel like was adding a lot to challenges overall. And I also feel like with this particular tribe, if you're a woman, it makes sense to try to stick with the women. Yeah. Like this is a tribe that more so than the heroes is gendered. Where the villains realize they need some of the connections with the women. So if they're men, they know that they need some of the women. Heroes aren't designed like that. So I'm like, if I was on this tribe, I would probably stick with the women and protect Parvati here, knowing that I would need that sometime in the future. However, if it's me watching this saying, if I'm here, I would, of course, I want to say I would have voted for Parvati because I do think that would have been the smartest move to do. What is not lost on me, and I want to ask you what your feelings are in this, is how interesting Amanda and Parvati's experiences on each other's camp is like, it's like so similar. Like they're kind of made out to be the same person in many ways. It's not so much about the flirting as much as about who they are on their tribe and why they're considered to be a big threat. So why do you think that is? Do you think it's purely because of Micronesia, or do you think it has something to do with their legacy of players as being a player?
It's tough because like I feel like with this season in particular, where like you are literally on a tribe like named heroes and named villains, like you kind of can't help but like play into that either way, right? And I feel like it's that theme and like those parallels of like those two women in particular really come to a head at the merge when Amanda tries to sniff out if Parvati has an idol. And that tips off Parvati to play those two idols on Jerry and Sandra. And like that to me is where the villains win the game, is like that conversation, that moment, and all that blame is put on Amanda, in my opinion. But, you know, like we see like Parvati has like she has like a much bigger hill to climb up in terms of like surviving this vote, where like I feel like everybody goes to Amanda, and I feel like Amanda has a lot more connections, not only because of Micronesia, but because of China as well. Like Amanda in particular is just so connected. Like she
but
is
here's the thing too. Parvati has just as many connections because Candace was on Cook Islands and they were on a tribe together.
That's true. That is true. I just feel like
she's at the biggest disadvantage in comparison to Amanda because she's on Villain's tribe and everybody else is on the Heroes tribe.
Yeah. The difference, though, is that Parvati has won at this point, and Amanda has not. And I feel like that's something that you can't escape from. Like that will always be like a point of conversation. If it's ever between Parvati and somebody else, like it could easily sway to her just because, like, oh, well, she's already won once. Like this isn't her season to win. I feel like Amanda just like doesn't strategically have it. Like I feel like she has just as many connections as like Cody from Big Brother All-Stars did. Like she had this entire season mapped out to do well no matter what. And I think it really fucks her up that Sari ends up going in this next episode.
Absolutely. And I think that the other thing too is I just can't help but think, what would have happened to the Villains tribe and what would this game have looked like if Parvati went here and Randy stayed?
That's tough.
Like it would be a completely different game. We wouldn't, I mean, it would be so very different. And I
think
wonder,
we're looking at Rob going a lot farther.
Rob, and I think that, I don't think that Tyson goes out the way he does. And like, I think that there's a whole bunch of different things that happen, but I don't think that I think the Villains lose a lot at the merge. And I feel like you get a little bit more JT going on. And that brings me to something I brought up to you pre-show and you said, let's save this.
Yeah. So ask me the question again.
So here's the thing. So we're going to talk about episode 4 a little bit now. Okay.
Yeah.
So with episode 4, I'm watching this last night and I haven't seen it in a few years. It's probably been about 5 years since I've last watched this season. And I always in my mind, like, shit on JT's performance this season. I was like, he was just way over his head. He thought he was making moves. He was actually making all these blunders. And it was, but I thought about that as like his entire run. And now I'm watching this and I'm like, you know what? I haven't given him enough credit for the first few episodes of this game. So I wanted to know, do you think that everything that is thought about his gameplay for this season is valid when it comes down to shitting on his performance? Or is it only valid after episode 4? Like, do you like his gameplay in the first 4 episodes?
I do, just because like especially on this rewatch for some reason, I'm really appreciating Tom's role on the Heroes tribe and just how much like he's willing to go against the grain and like say like you guys are idiots. To me, JT is just so flippable. He is so like I feel like Candace gets a bad rap of being this type of player. I feel like who else gets like a bad rap of that? I don't know, like Coach in this season gets a bad rap of that, but I feel like JT is the ultimate one who does that. He goes from like working with Amanda and Sari to working with after this vote Tom and Colby to working with Russell on the Villains tribe when he's still on the Heroes tribe. It's just like all over the place, and I feel like JT in particular is like the one player who goes from like just like declines in terms of like strategy and like how good of a player he is in every season that he does. Like he did his best game by far in Tocantins, and then this performance next, like he's the one that does the letter to Russell, and then
I can't wait.
He's the one to like first get up in Game Changers. So
I like Matt Henning's comment here. He's usually surrounded by people who have lesser social capital or really loyal people, which I think is exactly what his game was in Tocantins and what he's trying to take advantage of here. Now, the problem is that there aren't people, right. There's nobody who has less social capital except for the people that he needs that are fiercely loyal. Yeah. So they're at odds here, and he doesn't know how to manage that versus somebody who's a more adept strategic player, someone like a Boston Rob, for example, a Sandra, would be able to take that and be able to kind of play both sides of it. Yeah. But I do respect the hell out of him, like watching Sari work her magic and saying that's a strategic threat. She's well connected. And also, what is she giving to this tribe right now in terms of winning immunity challenges?
Yeah.
And being able to
she was playing this so well that like JT wanted to take out Candace here. Yeah. Which like makes no sense at all. Like how connected is Candace to anybody?
Take out Candace. This makes no sense. First of all, she is not a strategic threat in this game. She's not a strategic threat. The first time she played, the only reason why she flip-flopped so hard is because she wanted some dick. That was it. Like, literally, she's like, that's her gameplay. She's like, in my opinion, I love Candace now. I think Candace is an incredibly intelligent woman. She's a medical professional. I love everything that she's been doing for the community. I love her fire and blood versus water. Like, and even though she doesn't do well on that one, but no,
that's my favorite Candace season.
That's my favorite Candace is because she has some sense of like, I'm coming in for me and for my partner, and that's it. Like she doesn't like play other people's games and like let herself be the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah, and fuck you, Brad Culpepper.
Yeah, but fuck you, Brad Culpepper.
Right, but like that's why we loved her that season, right?
Exactly.
But that's not the Candace here.
But that's not the Candace here. And if you're JT and you're trying to find the people who have less social capital, like Matt was saying, Candace does make the most sense here, but it doesn't make sense for the entirety of the tribe. So you have to find somebody who the entirety of the tribe can get scared about.
Yeah.
And the best person is Sari. And you're not going to do that at the last moment. So it was smart that, first of all, JT had to tell people, I'd write down Colby's name. Like, I wish I could have seen that snippet of the conversation of when they're assigning who's writing down Colby's name, who's writing down Tom's name, because he had to volunteer to write down Colby's name. But I don't know.
The tough part is like, JT's just like your good old Southern boy, right? Like, no matter like where JT is positioned in this game, it's going to be attractive to him to work with the guys that he says in confessional here. I like working with Tom and Colby. They're just straight shooters in this game. Like I can just talk and take it to the bank with them. Like I think that's what he says. Yeah. But like JT is not capable of like a plan C, a plan D, a plan E, like just like layers of strategy where like what got him a 7-0 win in Tocantins was just being loyal to the end and just sitting on an idol with Steven and Tosh that they didn't have to use the entire season and letting Steven do all the work, right?
And that's what I think is really what it comes down to, okay? He needs somebody who's going to think way ahead, and he's not going to get that out of Colby. Love Tom, but he's not going to get that out of Tom. He's going to get that out of an Amanda, potentially, and he's going to get that out of Sari. Literally nobody else on the Heroes Tribe can do that. So what I think is interesting is it's like he came in. I don't think he did this intentionally. I think I'd be giving him way too much credit if I thought of it this way. I think he took a look around and figured out I need to play more like a villain this time and let people think I'm still a hero. So that they let me in, they see how trustworthy I am, that kind of thing. But I need to be making all these different alliances and such, which I do think is the right strategy. But you also have to be able to finesse it. And I think after this episode, that's where it just crashes and burns. But I do think this episode shows the best JT move out of the 3 seasons he's played.
Yes. But I don't give that credit to JT. I give that credit to Tom for doing such great work with him. So right after JT flips and votes out Sugar, right? Like JT is the one to go up to Tom right when they get back to camp, and he apologizes to Tom and says, like, listen, I still want to work with you. I still want to like extend an olive branch to you. So like JT is the one that's like saying like, Tom, I want to work with you, right? So Tom like cashes in that like in this moment here. And of course, like there's a little bit more pressure.
He's able to do it because he finds the immunity idol.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say is like the idol like puts like the pressure on like all the conversations on Tom now. Just like Parvati was in the villains camp. Like it's all about Tom, like especially because everybody knows that he has the idol. Amanda saw him put it in his sock, and then we get like a little montage of Amanda telling Suri telling Candace, like it just like literally everybody knows. So now it's all about Tom, right? And how can Tom like finesse his way in? And Tom wants to use this idol like together to like ingratiate himself into the tribe, stop playing like all of these like Micronesia politics, and just have a strong tribe. Like that's literally all he wants. But Suri is just so like, she just like, I feel like I have my hands up. I feel like she's like the puppet master, like that. That's what it feels like here.
I mean, it literally took one conversation where she like basically sat them all down and said, "You children are being dumb. What? I don't care if JT doesn't want to go through this." Now, what was unfortunate for her is that JT watched that conversation happen from afar. Now, if that didn't happen, then I think it's really clear what happens this time and JT doesn't flip. But I think that he hears that, says, ooh, Suri has that kind of power over people. And I think he brings that back to Tom. So I do give Tom more credit because it comes down to the idol and the fact that he was able to work the numbers, because I don't trust JT with that portion of it. But I do think that JT's decision to flip does make more sense for JT in this situation. And I do give him credit for that.
Absolutely. And I think it's great that like Tom waited until like literally like the sun was setting, like they were right about to go to tribal.
That is the best time to talk to a person into flipping who is a flippable person.
Yes.
You talk to them before the producers go, and stop. We're going to travel.
Literally, exactly. Like if you're like the last voice in somebody who's like not very strategically sound, you're probably going to win them over, right? Just like being that last voice in their head going into tribal.
I really want to see somebody go up to someone and go, okay, the group just decided this. They wanted me to tell you, but they're going to pretend at tribal council that it's going to go the other way. So don't get confused. Write this name down and just fuck over that person. I want to see that so bad. We've seen almost that, but like, why don't people do that? Like very overtly. I would love to see that. And I would love to see them come back and they're just being like, I don't know why they voted that way. Like, blah, blah. You told me to do so beforehand. Bullshit. Yeah. I told you to write down so-and-so's name. That's what we were doing. Like, come on. This would be so good.
And here's the thing, Beth. Like, Tom's not even the one to, like, name drop Suri in that sunset conversation. JT's the one, after seeing Suri just totally undo, like, hours of work Tom has just put in with Amanda and James. Suri undid all of that in like 5 minutes. And that scares the shit out of JT, who probably doesn't even have like the best vocabulary to like work that like social magic, right? So like Tom like basically says like the whole Trish and Kagyan, the whole like, you tell me who you want to go. Like, I have the idol. Like, let's make it happen. Like, I want to put you in the driver's seat. Yeah, like you want I want Suri out too. Yeah, let's do it. We have the votes right here. Boom. It was beautiful. Like when you're trying to flip somebody, all you have to do is like really listen to like what they want and align like your goals with theirs.
Right. Exactly. So Henning says, didn't Natalie do that in San Juan del Sur? Well, she did something similar where she told Jacqueline at the last moment, they're going to vote you out. And if you vote the way I want you to, then I promise you're going to stay. But she didn't tell somebody who was not going to go home. This is what I'm saying is I want someone who's not a threat to go home, but is a flippable person to flip the wrong way to make someone, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I want. That was a little different in the sense that like she basically saved someone by getting out another target.
Yeah. So then we get to tribal, right? And then I really liked this here. So James, he says like, I'm tired of all this like social like strategy. Like I just want to win. Like I just want to win the challenges. I want to win food. Like I want us to stay strong as a tribe. And Tom says to him, "Are you basing your vote on that tonight?" And I just think that's so baller.
It was amazing. Here's what I love. So James proves so many times that he's only here for the physical nature of this game. Like he doesn't have a strategic mind. He doesn't have a social mind, to be honest with you. He is there to be a strong like guy.
If him and Rob were on the same tribe, I feel like Rob would have James as a really loyal soldier.
Oh
for
my
him.
God. He would be like, what was his name? Graham. And yeah. He would be Graham. In Exile Island. No, not Exile Island.
Redemption Island. Temple.
Yes. So that's who I think he would be, except for James is much more physical than Graham. Graham was more agile. I think that James is such an interesting character for this heroes tribe. You see the moment, the episode before, when he literally just goes, and then just slams down the thing and walks away. They're like, "This is why. Are you sure you're on the right tribe?" Like that kind of thing. And he's always shut up and always saying those kind of things. He has those outbursts, and it's a really interesting side of him because I don't like. Even though he's had a quick temper in other seasons, like this is the most aggressive we've seen him as a person, not even as a player, as a person on the show. So having him on the Heroes Tribe, it's like he's really only there for the physical strength portion. He's an easy vote to whip into shape. But he's not going to go against his core people. So you have to.
And why should he, right?
And why should he? Yeah. And so you got to separate them out, which is why they try to go for Amanda, and they do get Cirie out. But that's his undoing. Cirie going is his undoing, and I will stand by that for the rest of this season. But
so Tom plays the idol on himself, and Cirie goes 3-2.
And my favorite quote, she says in the end credits, she says, "They did a move I would have done, so my hat's off to them." They pulled one of my moves against me. That's what it was.
And I'm glad that she like respects the move as like the great like strategic player that she is.
Respect the drip, Karen.
But my question to you is like, what could, because this is Cirie's worst performance in her Survivor history. So what like could Cirie have done differently to not get herself in this position here?
Well, I think that what would have been more interesting would have been to have Cirie have that conversation with all of them, and then Cirie have a conversation with Tom, Colby, and JT. Sit down and talk with them and say, "Why are you guys going after Candace? She's someone who we can easily flip. Who's somebody else that's not one of the four of us we could do?" Because Cirie's not afraid to do that. I don't know why she did, or at least why we didn't see that. I think that she's somebody who knows that if Candace goes, she's next. And she does have a little bit of Sandra in her, that anybody but me. But she also recognizes that it's not anybody but me. I got to figure out who's the person who's going to be in front of me every single time. And that's where she's got to be able to, figure out who's going to go where. And if she needs to throw a vote, she throws a vote.
To me, what I think she should have done, like, because like Tom was trying to go after her in the first round, the first time they went to tribal. I think that Cirie needs to recognize here, like, I just came from like a really baller performance in Micronesia. I'm very well connected here. I think it's okay to let Candace go. And like, I don't think that like going out on a limb to save Candace is worth like me being shown as like the person in the driver's seat for like all of these connections, right?
I think that what she also should have done is told Amanda, "Go get the idol from Tom." Because what she said was, "See, you didn't get the idol," and she like belittled them, which was, I mean, she was 100% right. "Oh yeah, I'd give you guys the idol, then give the idol." So what she should have done was put pressure on Amanda and James. I think it was James, whoever the two were that were talking to Tom. this where he said, I'd give you guys, I don't even really want it. And this is just going to make me a bigger target or whatever. Have them turn around, get that idol, and go from there. But make sure that JT also sees that portion of it too, which is Tom is not trustworthy because he's not going to just give up his idol like he's saying he is. So,
and who knows, like Tom maybe could have like done that if JT hadn't gone to him like last minute and say like, listen, I overheard this on the beach. So,
but it would have been interesting because if she could have gotten JT involved with that portion of it to say like Tom's willing to give us our idol and all that kind of stuff. First of all, I don't know if JT was as aware of that point. If he was, like, why would JT want to side with someone who's willing to share the idol with everybody rather than just JT and Colby and him, right? You want to work with as little people with an idol as possible, which I do think JT was thinking about. Secondly, if you see that Tom's not really willing to come like follow through with his word, that just gives you even more incentive to go, yeah, maybe we cut our losses. And then I could be, if Tom plays the idol, Tom's only person left is me if Colby goes.
I think another option too is maybe just take out Rupert here.
Like I've been saying this from the beginning. Why aren't they taking out Rupert? He has a broken toe. I mean,
on top of the broken toe, right? Like Rupert has a lot of like old school connections over on the Villains tribe as well. He's played with Jerry. He's played with Rob. He played with Sandra in the original season. What's his name? Rupert has voted for Sandra in the end to win $1 million. You know, so it's there. And plus the broken toe thing, like just appeal to James.
Aggravating people.
Yeah.
At the Heroes camp.
Yeah, I mean, Rupert was the one sitting out in that cube challenge, so like he's not really contributing much. I love this. Rory the Virgo says Rupert.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just like this one. He's an easy beat if they keep him in longer. It's the Christmas of BB19 all over again.
True. But so we talked about the hero's idol. So now let's talk about the villain's idol. Because Russell finds the clue, drops it in front of everybody, and Rob's like, "Wait, let's gather around. Let's all hear it." And Sandra just immediately locks it down. She says, "Whoever gets it is marked," and that is just like, that's perfect. That's it. It's simple, you know, but, you know, Russell can't help himself. And Russell says he's going for a walk and Rob's like, Sandra, go see what he's doing. And so Sandra walks down the beach and she sees him and she says, he's a stupid ass, which is like one of my favorite things. But I mean, say he wasn't looking for the idol, like I think Sandra just goes ahead and does it anyway.
I would have just thrown my pants down so it made it look like I was trying to take a shit.
Yeah, right.
I would have stood up, genitals exposed, and been like,
Yep, worth it. You know, because perception is reality. And, you know, like he really did mark himself by going out and finding the idol. And, you know, Sandra tells everybody that's it. And I think Russell's very lucky that they ended up winning this challenge here. I feel like he probably would have been at least voted out here.
So what's interesting in this situation is if you're Russell and you're going the direction that everybody knows where the idol is, and you announce that you're going for a walk, that's not smart. Why wouldn't you go the opposite way, head into the woods, and then go way back around the camp and go that way?
Yeah. I mean, or like, I don't know if you're allowed to say this, but like you could just say like, I have to go for like a confessional or something like that. I don't know. But I feel like this is just like a really beautiful one-to-one comparison of like how the villains handle this idol and how the heroes handle the idol, and just how much like the Amandas of the heroes tribe just like totally misplay this whole thing, where like Sandra, like, because both of them like see the clue and have to read it to the whole tribe, like both clues like literally everybody knows about, but how like Sandra just like locks like all of it down. Go to the heroes, everybody is just like scattered, like looking out for themselves, not thinking about the group. So I don't know, it's just interesting.
It is a fun comparison. And what I like about it the most with the villains tribe, it's like the two people who are notorious about idol stuff, Rob and Russell both misplay it.
Yeah.
Russell just goes, "What's this?" And it comes out. And then Rob goes, "Let me read it out loud." And both of them are like, But you know what? It's so funny to see both of them make that massive mistake. But we also have to put this into context that this was a time when they weren't just hiding as many clues in things. Like they really start getting into hiding clues and random things like in the 20s. They do a little bit in the teens, but they do a lot more of it in the 20s, in the seasons in the 20s and such. So that's why I think it's really funny is that you have this moment that really trips up two people who would never make that mistake if they were on the lookout for it.
Yeah, exactly. I really feel like this season has like the perfect amount of vitals. It's not like overblown like it is in Modern Survivor, but just enough to like keep things interesting, especially when like they are not going to swap tribes like at all. This season. It's just a fun little fold. One last thing I had in my notes to talk about is so like right when they get back from tribal after like Sandra like bruises Coach's ego by saying like Coach is walking off doing this doing that and we ain't got a machete and just like trying to like put like any kind of blame on Coach. Coach's ego is just like so bruised over just like literally one little comment. And he goes to Tyson and he's like sobbing and he's like, I don't know what to do. Like, why is everybody targeting me? Like,
why is everyone always targeting me?
Yeah. He's like, I'm just an honorable man. Like, I'm a hero of this game, like that kind of thing. And Tyson says, stop wearing feathers at tribal. Stop telling stories. Nobody believes them. Do your Tai Chi in private. And I think that those are three fantastic words of advice to give Coach.
It's also the first time we hear Tyson talk like at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so funny to me that Tyson has gotten so much of an edit in his other seasons that he's played. And I understand that he's not as important to the overall storyline, but it is just so funny to me that normally they would want some kind of bit confessional from him because of his like super dry tone and sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, they put that all on Russell.
Yeah, well, I think that like Tyson, I feel like he hasn't come into his own as a Survivor player yet until he gets his ass handed to him, which we're going to be recapping next week. But I feel like after this performance is when Tyson really zooms out and looks at like, this is what I need to do to be a winner of this game. Because after he gets himself voted out, basically, is when he comes back to do Blood versus Water and wins that season very, very well.
Yeah.
But I think that he learns a lot of lessons in this season. So I think that's why he's a little quiet. And then
it's just interesting to see him not full of himself.
Yeah,
like you normally see. Like he was even full of himself in Token Chains. Like, but you don't see that here. And on a tribe with everybody being full of themselves, I just think it's funny.
Yeah. One last thing is, Coach goes up to Rob. Yeah, I love the admiration of Coach, like how much he like looks up to Rob.
Yeah,
it's so like innocent. It's very like, I want to be like Rob when I grow up, like that type of relationship. And after Coach cries to Tyson, he goes to cry to Rob. And this is so Rob to be like, trust me, no more bullshit. You need to man up, stop crying, just trust me. Like, that's it. Like, I can't prove it to you. Like, you have to just trust me. But that me proving it to you will come with time. And literally that's it. And I feel like that is such effective leadership. It's just as well as like Parvati did with Coach, just the whole like nip this in the butt, like don't even like entertain this paranoia, because like this is the kind of shit that like gets everything spinning at camp, gets everything out of control, and then you blink and then the target's on you because of like something that like isn't even true. It's just like insane paranoia, And I think that like that's how I would work as a player in this game. Like people like Coach that are just so like just like paranoia driven and just like very easily weakened. Like that type of like chaos in this game is something that like I would just be like very scared to work with. So
they're scary players to work with because in like you said that they were, I mean, they can be flippable. So there's that, but you also have to spend so much of your energy assuring them.
Yeah, it's a plant that needs lots of watering.
Yeah, and we all have those people in our lives that we spend, and just not even within the context of a game, but just are people that we spend a lot of time reassuring and validating and such. And then I'm like, myself included, like I need a lot of validation and such from people. Like I know that that's how I operate. And I think that what we see in a lot of these characters are people are aware of where their downfalls are. It's just that when you're playing Survivor, they are exposed and amplified like you wouldn't believe. Sugar, for example, knew that she's really dependent, knew that she can be annoying. She literally said that in the first.
She admits it in confessional.
She admits it in a confessional. JT says, I'm not a good liar. I guess it's passing off well enough here, but I know that I'm not great at this. Coach says, I'm sensitive. I understand these words really affect me, and I understand that. And he has this moment. These are all characters who really, like, this is not shocking. But you have to be willing to put in the time and the effort into those people, which is why Survivor is a social game at the end of the day. Yes. If you can't play the social portion and you're only doing physicality, 9 out of 10 times, you're going to lose this game, unless you're Ben.
Yeah, yeah, unless you're Ben and or you get an idol on day 37. Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Under the bench you were looking at.
Right. But I think that wraps it up for this recap. Like I said, pretty straightforward with Randy. Fun idol play with Tom. And then, of course, next week we'll see 2 more strong competitors go. That's all I'll say. You know, if you're
there's not too many weak players left, like in terms of weak personalities, like weak, like camera time, all those different kinds of things. Like I felt like, you know, after next week, it really just starts boiling, and that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. So I totally agree. So after next week, I think is where like every single person plays a very pivotal role in the season.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll see. But so thank you guys for joining us for this recap. Tonight is the premiere of The Challenge season 36. And we will be live tomorrow at 7 to recap the premiere. Beth has never seen an episode of The Challenge before.
I haven't. So
what's for somebody who's never seen The Challenge, like what do you think The Challenge is?
I feel like it's like a more intense version of Big Brother. Okay. Like I've gotten like vibes that they like live in a house. Their challenges are way more intense, way more physical. The drama is amped up a lot more. But that's all I really know about it. So I've played The Challenge on Roblox a couple times.
Okay.
And I didn't understand what was happening. I just generally don't get Roblox. I played with some people in the org community, and I was like, I don't know why I'm on here. So I haven't played that in months, but that's all the exposure I've really had to The Challenge. But I do like that I'll be able to watch some Survivor players and Big Brother players who I do know in the house or compete. I mean, so I'm excited.
Yeah. I'm excited too. This cast looks really good. I feel like some of the problematic MTV characters, like Johnny Bananas, like Polly and Cara Maria, like they're not in this season. So I feel like if it's any season to like start watching The Challenge, I feel like this is it. Plus, you're right, like a lot of Big Brother Survivor players as well. So that's always exciting too. So we'll be back live tomorrow to talk about all that stuff. And then on Monday, we'll recap our next RuPaul's Drag Race season 6 coverage, which is Patreon only. So if you want to check that out, become a patron at patreon.com/myweeklymeltdown and get access to that exclusive show.
And this time for you patrons, we have learned not to put any clips from Viacom.
Yeah, I am so sorry. That's totally my fault. I was trying to like jazz up our show, and it bit me in the butt.
It's all good, but thank you to Rory who noticed it really quickly, so I was able
Yeah.
to bring it to Tyler and Allison's attention, and I'm thankful that we were able to recover the audio for you guys. But moving forward, we promise that we will be making those video ones too. But what we like about this setup, guys, is that we have 3 shows a week that we get to cover, which not only gives us more time with each other and with you guys, but it also gives each of us kind of like our own show to lead. You know, the Survivor Heroes versus Villains is very much Tyler. The challenge is going to be definitely an Allison like leading show, and Drag Race is definitely a Beth leading show.
Yeah.
And so I think this week we're also, for Drag Race, for anybody who's a patron and watches Drag Race, I think we're also going to talk about the Untucked episodes too.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, I'm so excited.
Really good. So it's just so spicy. So yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I hope you guys all have a great rest of your night. We'll see you guys again tomorrow. So
and don't
hope
forget
you're not sick of us yet.
subscribe.
Yes, like and subscribe, all that fun stuff. And also thank you to our new patrons. We've had 4 new patrons since we started covering RuPaul's Drag Race. So
yes.
That's very exciting as well. So thank you for that support and all that fun stuff. But we will see you guys tomorrow. All right. So have a good night.
Have a good night.
Bye.